There are a lot of ways to buff underperforming characters. New echo sets or weapons, new buffs from characters that synergize with their kits, and the most insane method of all, turn them into a new 5-star limited character and then give them to everybody for free. It's abundantly clear that Kuro has made some missteps with the design of Calcharo, from his lack of synergy with the game's core mechanics to his long, drawn-out animations that leave him in constant danger in a game with consistently aggressive AI. While they could have gone through the effort of rebalancing his kit through traditional gacha methods, they've instead decided to develop a whole new character that does everything that he does, but better. An Electro attribute, Resonance Liberation damage, and 5 stacks on the Forte circuit. The similarities are uncanny, but their gameplay couldn't be any more different. Xiangli Yao is an improvement on Calcharo in pretty much every single way. They've heard the complaints about Calcharo and his clunkiness, and many of those issues are simply not present in the release of Xiangli Yao. Today we'll be breaking down why this is the case, going into an in-depth review of how Xiangli Yao's kit functions, why it's so much smoother to play than Calcharo's, and the massive advantages that Xiangli provides through his upgraded design. If you've had the chance to pilot Xiangli in the most recent story quest, you'll probably have a great idea of what I'm talking about. As always, if you're enjoying this content, please hit that like and subscribe button. Compared to prior releases like Jeja and Xiangli, Xiangli is one of the most straightforward limited characters we've had in Wuthering Waves. If I could describe his kit at a baseline, it would be a blend between Mortefi and Calcharo. Xiangli's regular Forte circuit is charged up with resonance skill casts and basic attacks. These regular attacks scale off their base damage types, but when Xiangli's Forte circuit is filled, he gains immediate access to an empowered resonance skill that deals liberation damage. This is very similar to how Calcharo's Forte circuit functions, except Calcharo can only use resonance skills to charge up his circuit, and has to trigger a heavy attack for the enhanced ability. Considering the huge input delay and extremely long animation time of Calcharo's heavy attack, Xiangli's enhanced skill is simply much easier to use, with far less risk, an instant activation, and charge up from every action on the field instead of just resonance skill casts. It's more fluid, practical, and the build-up feels a lot more natural than Calcharo's 3-chained resonance skill casts. There's no way you can lose your Forte circuit as well, like how you can time out of Calcharo's skill window or straight up miss the enemy with the cast. That's one area of massive clunkiness removed. However, this is just the first of many upgrades in Xiangli Yao's kit. As a Resonance Liberation focused damage dealer, his baseline Forte circuit is just a small part. The real upgrades are across the burst mode granted by casting his Resonance Liberation. Using this ability will deal a massive amount of damage in an AoE, and then grant Xiangli 3 hypercubes that will begin floating around him. To trigger one of these hypercubes, Xiangli must build up his new Forte circuit to 5 stacks, and then cast an empowered resonance skill to consume a cube and deal a huge amount of damage. All resonance liberation damage, to be exact. Those familiar with the gameplay of Calcharo will see a huge similarity between these hypercubes and Calcharo's death messengers. They both require 5 stacks generated from basic attacks, and they both deal a huge amount of damage when they hit. However, the way that these two generate stacks is wildly different. Calcharo can only generate stacks from basic attacks. Dodge counters generate no stacks at all, and will actually lower your DPS if used across Calcharo's rotations. These dodge counters eat into the incredibly short 10-second duration on his Resonance Liberation, and can lower the number of death messengers he can actually use. When death messengers are a large portion of his total damage, this makes his rotations one of the most unreliable and RNG dependent in the game. Xiangli Yao, on the other hand, he has none of these issues. The devs did, in fact, listen. Xiangli generates Forte circuits on basic attack, resonance skill cast, fast, and perhaps most importantly, dodge counters. These dodge counters even generate 2 Forte circuit stacks. What this means is that one of the biggest problems in Calcharo's kit is simply not present in Xiangli Yao's, and that makes him far smoother to play. Using one of the core mechanics of Wuthering Waves' gameplay, dodging, doesn't actually butcher your rotations, and your resonance skill button is actually worth pressing in your burst mode. It feels great being able to use more than 1 or 2 buttons without losing a massive amount of damage. From a simple gameplay feel, Xiangli Yao wins, but there are also many more benefits present across his kit that give him far more flexibility than Calcharo. Xiangli Yao's Resonance Liberation has an absurdly long duration. It either lasts 24 seconds or until all 3 hypercubes are used. Instead of playing on a 10-second speed run to get in as many death messengers as you can with Calcharo, you have almost 3 times as long to get your hypercubes off with Xiangli Yao. That's incredible. They've taken the clunkiest parts of Calcharo's kit and just removed them entirely, while also streamlining advanced mechanics like swap canceling with a far more generous combo window. There's really no reason to use Yinlin with anybody else once he drops in the latter half of 1.2. However, the upgrades don't end here. They even extend to the inherent skills and their skill trees as well. At a baseline, these characters have the exact same skill tree with upgrades to attack and critical damage. Across their inherent skills, Calcharo gains Resonance Liberation damage on using his clunky 3-stack heavy attack, and a 15% damage reduction with no interruption resistance when using his death messengers. These buffs are hard to access, or simply not that useful at all. Xiangli Yao, on the other hand, gains a simple stacking electro damage buff on casting any type of resonance skill, and interruption resistance when he uses his Resonance Liberation. This means that the build-up for Xiangli's personal damage buff feels a lot more natural and simple than Calcharo's, and with this built-in interruption resistance, it's far easier to activate his 3 hypercubes and actually maintain his rotation. It genuinely feels like they took all of the feedback from Calcharo and his performance and simply turned it into a new character. Normally, that would be something worth complaining about, but they're giving out Xiangli for free. Overall, the difference between these 2 characters is night and day. And it's abundantly clear which Resonance Liberation focused Electro main DPS feels better to play. With Xiangli's release, it's fair to say that Calcharo is effectively dead. While you theoretically could see great performance on Calcharo through sheet calculations in Microsoft Excel, actually executing that in regular gameplay is a whole different story. Xiangli simply feels better and far more realistic to play, not just for the average player, but for basically every player in Wuthering Waves. As always, if you enjoyed this content, please hit that like and subscribe button. Peace out.